and I feel very driven to find a way to do things. I had a successful career. When I finished university, I went to the UK, and I had a successful career there for 7 years. But somehow, after 7 years, I felt compelled in some extraordinary way to come home. And it was a very strong feeling. And I've never regretted it for 1 second coming back. Good morning.
Good morning.
Or good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon already, yes. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It looks like it's sunny in Johannesburg today. Oh, wonderful. Blue skies, and
it's a beautiful day here.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Yeah, it's time for the summer, I think, to arrive in South Africa now.
Yep.
Yeah. You had a long winter.
Well, we've had a long lockdown.
Oh, yeah, that as well.
It's actually great now to be in summer and doing things. We're finally doing some concerts.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and tell me, what is it like now at the moment? As you can do concerts with full audience.
No. Most of the time we're doing outdoor events, because indoors we are still limited to 50%. But most of our work is sort of pay as you go, if you like. We don't have a lot of sponsorship, so with 50% audience, it's hard to make any money. So we try to go for outdoor venues that are free. People give us their gardens and so on, and we have small orchestras and about 100 up to 140 or 150 people, and we can actually make them pay, which is great.
This situation with the sponsors, is that just because of the pandemic, or have you always had problems with sponsorship?
No. We've had lots of sponsorship, but things are very different now because people are concentrating on basic clinics, education, things, Western style music. Not that we only do Western style music, but Western style music is not so easy to get sponsorship for anymore because it's seen as a luxury. When there are many people are struggling just to live here.
But Richard, tell me, how did you start in music in South Africa as a child?
As a child, I grew up in a family which encouraged me to play the piano and to sing. And the junior school that I went to had no music at all. It was a rural school.
Really? Where was that in South Africa?
It was near Port Elizabeth.
Yeah.
At the Van Staden's Pass. But eventually when I went to senior school, then they had a proper music department. And that's when I really started getting involved in choirs and playing the organ and so on.
So was that as a child, did you know you want to pursue a career in music?
No. I wanted to be a farmer, a dairy farmer, because that's I spent most of my vacations with an uncle and aunt who had a dairy farm, and they had no children. So I thought that I would take over this dairy farm and that would be my lot in life, which I really loved. But when I was in my final year of school, the farm was sold. I mean, my uncle always said, you'd be crazy to go into farming. So he sold the farm, and the director of music at the school where I was said, don't let that put you off. You'll actually make a good musician. So I went into music, and I've never regretted it for 1 second. Yeah.
Really? And then when you studied in South Africa, but I've read that you've also went to the UK.
Yes. So I finished my studies at the University of Cape Town.
Yeah.
And during that time, I also had a job. My whole university career, I had a job as the organist of a church. So straight out of school, I took a job as an organist in a church, and I did that for all my time, which stood me in very good stead because it taught me actually how to deal with people, how to run a choir, how to keep young, it was an all-male choir, how to keep young boys interested in what they were doing. We organized football matches, mountain climbing, concert outings, all that sort of stuff, summer schools of church music. So I learned how to organize and how to deal with people.
Mm.
And that was very good.
Yeah, and I've spoken to a few of the South African singers and opera singers, and they told me as well that their career started in a choir, you know, that they grew up in the townships, but that there were, you know, the church choir, and that they started. I've spoken to Sonny Boyd Ladla, and he said also that he started in a choir, and it seems that it's so important, these choirs that children sing in, that also for them, when they don't have other resources, that can also be something important to help them.
Yeah, definitely. And choir music is big in South Africa. And of course, you know, your voice is free. Everyone has a free instrument.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're struggling to buy food, you're not going to be able to buy a piano or a trumpet or a clarinet or whatever it is. So, but everyone's got a voice. And singing is a big part of life in Africa, and particularly in South Africa.
Can you see the difference between in South Africa, in the culture where previously, you know, there were more opportunities for South Africans because we had more theaters there, and now it seems that many theaters closed down. So what are there for these young children that they start in music, or that they have an interest in music?
Okay, I understand your question.
Yeah.
So in days gone by, up to about the 90s, the mid-90s, there were 4 performing arts councils in South Africa. Well, it sounds that you're South African, are you? So,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
not? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you understand that system that we had, where there were 4 performing arts councils, and they provided work for ballet dancers, orchestras, opera singers, theater practitioners, all sorts of things. And soon after democracy, those 4 arts councils, as they were, closed down for business. And really the only opera company which kept going was in Cape Town. And it had to operate more on a freelance basis, getting its own funding. And there were some opera companies which grew up, but to be honest, they have not lasted any length of time. So the opportunities for young singers to make a career in opera is now very, very limited in South Africa. So the only possibility they have is to study abroad, because the only company going now is in Cape Town, and they have a very limited number of openings for singers.
Mm. But then now also, I've spoken to a South African singer in Switzerland, Thomas Erlang, and he said, he mentioned something that we don't take into consideration also, and that is that to get to Europe to study is already, you need funding for that. And for many of these singers in South Africa, they don't have that, you know, they don't have that, the possibility to have the funding or the sponsorship to be able to do that.
Yeah, but in spite of that, many of our singers are now abroad and doing very well. So they, I mean, there are people that you can call on in South Africa. I myself have a trust which has supported several many young, and some of them have done extremely well. Siyabonga being one of them. And most of the singers abroad, I can't say most, but many of the singers abroad have benefited in some way, either from the Apollo Music Trust, which I run, or from the Oppenheimer Memorial Trust, which has supported a lot of musicians over the years. But it's true that it's not seen as a high priority by the government. And this is, I don't understand this, because it's one of our best exports is our singers. And I cannot understand why the Arts and Culture Department doesn't see this and use it as a fantastic advertisement for the talents that we've got in South Africa. It's hard to understand. But I think Western music is not so popular amongst the current government officials. And so I don't think that's going to change very quickly.
Mm. And yet many of the African singers, they have a great interest in classical music, because I've spoken also to a composer in Nigeria, and there seems to be a great, a community of very talented classical musicians and singers, and they do great work, but also, no funding available. But for them, it's the love for classical music.
Yeah. And there's a big love for it in South Africa too. I mean, we've got very good string projects here in various cities around South Africa, catering mainly for young Black players. And they do very well. And some of the players have also gone overseas. Some of them have come back now. It's harder for them to make a living overseas because opera houses have a great need for voices. And I think opera houses in Europe now have a sort of diversity policy also, which enables our Black singers to get positions. And it's working to their advantage. So, we do have a lot of people of color who are interested in Western music, but officially, at a government level, it's not supported all that much. It's very difficult to run an orchestra here. Is now very difficult. I ran the National Symphony Orchestra for nearly 10 years, and it was during that time that we moved from being a fully funded organization to a charity organization, if you like. I can't think of a better word, but looking for funding, and it was jolly difficult. Really? Because that was at the change to democracy, and it was seen as not cool to support Western music in any noticeable way.
Really?
Yeah.
And this orchestra, is it still existing? Your orchestra?
No. That was the National Symphony Orchestra. I now have a freelance orchestra called the Johannesburg Festival Orchestra, and another one called the Phoenix Orchestra. So over the years, it's morphed one way or the other, but we still have orchestras going here. There are a lot of orchestral players here, but we just all operate on a freelance basis now.
Oh, I see.
And I don't mind what it's called. It can be called the Johannesburg Festival Orchestra, the Phoenix Orchestra, the Oda Libertas Festival Orchestra, the Cape Town Festival Orchestra. I don't mind what it's called, as long as we can provide work for people.
Yeah, but these players, the musicians, they don't get paid. They have to.
No, they do get paid. Absolutely get paid.
Okay.
Yeah, but on a per service basis.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. No. There's only there are two contracted orchestras left in South Africa. One in Durban, one in Cape Town.
Oh, I see.
But they're very shaky.
Mm.
Yeah.
Now, the times where you now do concerts, do you organize these concerts then, and do you have theaters now where you do the concerts?
Yeah, normally we do our concerts in the Linda Auditorium in Johannesburg, which is our local concert venue, or UNISA in Pretoria. But because people are now doing smaller events, we can move into smaller theaters. So the Brooklyn Theatre in Pretoria, which is now not called the Brooklyn, it's now called AfriForum. There's the Atterbury Theatre where we've done events. We are doing smaller orchestras in smaller theaters now. But even so, with 50% of audiences, it's really difficult to make it pay. Yeah. So we've taken to doing, we've done about 16 concerts now outdoors in beautiful gardens. Yeah, well, the rains have just started now. Yeah, we have summer rains, as you know, in Johannesburg. So the rains have just started. But so August, September, we can do outdoor concerts easily, and we have done quite a lot in beautiful gardens, because there are some spectacular gardens in Johannesburg. So we've been doing outdoor concerts of a sort of, well, we've done some serious ones, a Baroque concert, mostly a sort of mixed type of program, tending towards lighter classics, but they've been very popular, and they've attracted a completely different audience, which is interesting.
Really? Was that now
young
after
people,
yeah.
yeah,
Was that now after the lockdowns that you find that's a
yeah,
different audience? Really? Mm.
different audience, younger people with children. The audience generally for these outdoor concerts has been much younger than usual. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Well, that's amazing. And you know, I spoke to a conductor in America, and he said exactly the same thing. He said this first concert of the season, because they did a lot of streaming over the lockdown time, and everybody was a bit like, well, you know, is this going to now prevent audiences from coming back to the concert? But he said that he actually saw younger faces in his audience.
Well, also, I think the streaming appeals to younger people because they are much more au fait with sort of technological stuff.
Yeah.
So what is interesting also, I also run two choirs. I've got a big choir, symphony choir, and a smaller chamber choir. And where we would normally get maybe 300 people, when we put stuff online, we get 1,000 people, 1,500 people, quite easily. And in fact, one of our, we also put some orchestral, so we do a big concert every year called Starlight Classics. And that normally we have about 10,000 people over a couple of nights before lockdown. Now we put it online, and one of our concerts that we put online has had over 1 million views.
Amazing.
So I think we reach a completely different audience with our online stuff, and it's really quite exciting. And I definitely think it will have an effect on you know, our audiences going forward. It's very interesting.
Well, I find it also interesting because I've spoken to ballet dancers over the lockdown period, and we also talked about this, you know, the streaming, and then they said something like that I also didn't think about, is that they suddenly got audience from a completely different country that wouldn't have seen them and normally wouldn't have been able to come to the concert. And isn't this amazing that you know, that this has now opened up a completely different audience from people can now watch South African musicians from here and from Brazil and from America, which is amazing. Yeah.
No, it is amazing. And I think it's wonderful, because actually we have a lot of incredible talent in South Africa, unbelievable talent. And if, you know, if people can see it from all around the world, that's wonderful. The other thing that we've done during lockdown is to do some concerts in more public spaces, in shopping centers and things like that. In fact, we've got one coming up next week where we just, on a Friday night, we go into a place where there are a lot of restaurants, and one of the restaurants makes space for us, and we perform in the restaurant. I mean, it's more like, I can't say background music because people actually sit and listen, but there's a lot of hustle and bustle in a shopping center, which doesn't stop. But we play for, you know, an hour and a half while people are there having drinks or having supper or whatever, and they love it. It's slightly precarious financially, but it's better than nothing for the players. You know, we started it when there really was no work. Now these places quite like it, and these outdoor concerts also, the people whose gardens we were in saying, please come back next year, we want more of this. So this is a new discovery in a way for us, that there is an appetite for this type of event.
Well, I went to now during our lockdown, I went to a opera in a garden, a small. It's not a long. I don't know what you call it, but it's smaller. scale opera.
Yes.
And that was amazing because, and you know, we were all sitting there. It was very informal. And I sort of think it's also a good way of connecting with a different audience, because I've been thinking a lot about this the idea of going to a concert hall, dressing up. That's wonderful. But for some people, that's intimidating. You know, for
Yes.
people who don't know this and don't know the etiquette in a concert hall, that's intimidating. But bringing it like this to the garden, or, you know, outside, or like you say, in the shopping center, it makes people aware of it in a different way, I think.
Yeah, and with that in mind, we have also told the players it's absolutely casual dress. There's no distinction between you and the people who are sitting there. We're all in the boat and we're all casually dressed. So, and that also, I mean, as you say, you know, it can be intimidating when everyone's dressed in black or whatever it is. And there's definitely a divide in a concert hall between the people on the stage and the audience, which is something that I've tried to bridge for all the years I've been involved here in music. And that's been my job, is to bridge that gap between audiences and what's on the stage. So I talk to audiences and take them along on the journey, which has been very important. The critics hated it. They used to slam because they're such snobs. They want their music pure and unadulterated, but it didn't have any effect on me. And they used to pan me all the time, you know, for this. Do you speak Afrikaans?
Yeah, I do.
They used to call it hierdie onnodige geklets van Richard Kot.
Yeah, but you see, this is what, when I speak to conductors and we talk about this thing, and they sometimes say people don't want a lecture. But I think when I go to any music event, when somebody talks about the music or about the composer, or just, you know, it makes it just so much different to listen to. Yeah, you listen so in a completely different way.
Yeah, and it's not a lecture. It's just an elucidation, a brief introduction, if you like, as to, what to listen for, why we're doing it, you know, just enjoy the journey, basically. That's what it's all about. It's definitely, and it's to link the pieces in a program, because usually there's some sort of underlying link which people are not always aware of. So that's what I do all the time.
And but Richard, how? Because you know, the concerts, you have the popular things that people want to listen to, and they go and you know this. Do you also find it important that audiences get educated by putting in new works, or putting in works of younger composers or living composers?
Definitely. Yeah. Commissioning. Oh, hello.
Oh. Hello, cat. What is the cat's name?
Louis.
Louis.
He's named after Louis Armstrong.
Oh, Louis. Louis.
Yeah. So we have a Louis and an Ella, for
Louis
Ella
and
Fitzgerald.
Ella. Oh, okay.
So commissions. I've commissioned a lot of stuff over the years, more for my choirs really than for the orchestra, because orchestral commissions are very expensive. So I mean, we have commissioned stuff, and I've done a lot of first performances, and we've had fun doing those, but it is expensive to do because commissioning is expensive. So I try to get other people to commission stuff. But over the years we've done a lot.
And are there many young composers in South Africa that get the opportunity to get their works played in South Africa, or is it mostly outside?
There are. In fact, we've got quite an active new music. It's called New Music SA. And in fact, we talked to that guy too. He's a very nice young chap called Cameron Andrews. And I'll write to you when we've finished and send you some other suggestions. I'll just write it at Petra. They're just New Music SA. They're just getting going. and he's having some very good success in fundraising, which is amazing. Because, I mean, it's pretty esoteric stuff that they put on, but he's getting funding for it because I think people are quite excited by the concept of new music and new composers.
Yeah.
And we have quite a lot around South Africa. Not all of, Louis, go away. Not all of them can get their performances done easily, but we try to provide opportunities also to keep them going by giving them arranging opportunities for orchestra or choir or whatever it is. So it's not their own compositions, but they can make a living by doing arrangements.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Oh, leave Louis.
He'll probably come and lie down here in front of me.
For some reason, I spoke to a ballet dancer the other day and his cat came in as well. So maybe they want to be on Zoom.
Yeah, well, I'm happy that he feels comfortable here, but he can be irritating.
Well, yes, it's great to know that, you know, young composers can also have the opportunity because, you know, I think that's also important that new music gets heard and that they get the opportunity to compose.
Yeah, and we for many years now, I've run since 2006 actually. I've run the Joburg International Mozart Festival, and for many years we've had a composer in residence for that.
Yeah.
It's a bit expensive to do it now, but we also have done things in collaboration with the Goethe Institute. And for several years, we did a special thing for young composers. So we would get 3 young composers or 4 young composers and link them up to another art form like photography or painting or sand art or poetry. And they had to compose a short piece with this other person, either to film or to poetry or to art or whatever it was. And we did that for many years, very successfully. So we gave opportunities to 3 or 4 young composers every festival under the tutelage of the composer in residence. And it worked extremely well. Yeah.
That's amazing. Is there some place we can see that? Is that on YouTube perhaps?
There probably is. I'll try and find it. I'm sure there is. Yeah.
I would love to put the link down below in the description of the video.
My daughter will know where to find it. I'll try and find it for you.
Okay. This, you know, I've spoken to a few artists in South Africa as well, and it's amazing the work that you are doing and how you just, you know, despite of all the setbacks and not the funding and that you have to go through, that you still, you know, that they still do things and such creative projects that they are doing.
Yeah, you know, a boer maak 'n plan.
Yeah.
And we feel, I mean, many South Africans, musicians and artists feel passionately about what they do. And so they find a way, because otherwise we would just curl up and die.
Yeah.
You know, we have to find a way to do things. Okay, he's found a nice guy, you know, so he's happy.
Okay.
So we have to, and I feel very driven to find a way to do things. I had a successful career. When I finished university, I went to the UK, and I had a successful career there for 7 years. But somehow, after 7 years, I felt compelled in some extraordinary way to come home. And it was a very strong feeling. And I've never regretted it for 1 second coming back, because the area, I was involved in church music in the UK, and I was a singer. I was a professional singer for 7 years. I sang countertenor, and I became the assistant organist of the cathedral where I was working. But once you are locked into that system, you are actually locked into that system. And I've seen it happen to other people where that's your your little narrow career choice. Whereas here, I've been able to do a wide variety of things. I was a cathedral organist here for 10 years. I ran an orchestra. I've run choirs. I do a lot of school works with school kids. I mean, it's as wide as you want to have the imagination to do things. And it's been fantastic. I've not regretted it for 1 second.
Really? But that's
Yeah.
amazing. And it's amazing that you say you're working with schools as well. So you, what type of programs do you do at the schools?
Well, even now, recently, for years, I've been involved with school choir festivals.
Yeah.
And we put a small orchestra together. So it's different to just having a piano. We put a small orchestra together so that kids get the experience of singing with an orchestra too, which many of them definitely don't have. So even during lockdown now, recently, about 2 weeks ago, we did a concert with one of the big schools here to raise funds. They have an Interact club at the school, which is like a fundraising thing. And they asked me if we could do a concert. So we had a small orchestra. We had their junior choir. It's a school that goes right the way through to from sort of 5 to 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
And we had the junior choir from the junior primary singing with us. And then we had their marimba group of about 18 players. We had some of the kids who'd written some music. They were playing the piano. We had their djembe drums. And it was just a feast of wonderful music. All the parents were there loving it. And it paid for itself and made some money for their Interact club. That's the amazing thing.
Amazing. What school is that?
St. Stithians.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
It's a big private school.
Okay.
And then this last weekend, I don't know where you come from. Where are you from in South Africa?
Van der Bijl Park.
Okay. Well, last weekend, I did a concert with Afrikaans Hoor Meisies in Pretoria.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they have an incredible music department.
Really?
They have an orchestra of 90 girls.
Oh, amazing.
We did a concerto festival with their better students, and we had unusual instruments, 2 oboes, a horn, a bassoon, some violins, no flutes, no pianos, and really interesting repertoire. And so we had a slightly bigger orchestra there, but the school is prepared to commit funds to do this. And it was really impressive. Very, very, now they want to make it an annual event. So,
yeah,
it's amazing.
I think, if for young children to have that opportunity, isn't it amazing?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think if I read so much about the also the brain development in children and in musicians, and how important that is. And then you think it should really be that every child in the world should be able to do some form of art and some music education,
100%. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So, but Richard, tell me now on a lighter note, what do you do in your spare time? Do you have hobbies apart from music, or is music also your hobby?
No, music is also my hobby, but we love birds. So my wife and I are keen bird watchers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we go to the bush when we can. But to be honest, the music consumes a lot of my life. I read a lot. History, biographies, I read a lot, especially during lockdown. I just read hundreds of books.
Really?
I'm very interested in contemporary politics. I mean, I'm not involved in it, but I follow contemporary political trends and so on avidly. And yeah, I garden a little bit now, a little bit. My wife is a keen gardener.
Okay.
And we recently have become grandparents, so I've got a wonderful grandchild.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And
So
He's
you're
a
an
lot
opa.
of.
You're
I'm an
opa.
opon.
Opa.
I'm a judger. He calls me judger. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm interested in people, and my choirs take up a lot of my time too. I've got two very big choirs, a big one that's about 100 people and a small one of 20. And, that takes some time also. So I have a variety of activities. And at the moment, I want you to, when you're finished this, I want you to look up my son, who you can look him
I
up.
did.
Have you looked him? Did you look at him?
I wanted to ask you about that. I follow him now on Instagram.
It's amazing.
It's amazing what he's doing. It's unbelievable. I can't believe it's I think is it 97 days that he's been running
97.
now? Yeah.
And he's big. He's built like me. Okay. He's
Really?
tall, big boned, and he wears size 13 shoes. He is not a natural athlete, but boy, he's taken this challenge on, and he's going to see it through. He's very cheerful. He's fit. He's happy, and it's unbelievable.
Well, I saw yesterday, I think he did 21 kilometers.
Every day he does.
He's doing every day 21 or 20.
Every day, 21, 21.5.
Amazing.
On 97 days.
And
so he's run, basically, he's run almost 25 comrades marathons back to back.
But it's unbelievable. And did he train before that, or is he just running every day a little bit?
No, he trained. I tell you, what happened was he's a restaurateur, actually. He had 7 restaurants, all of which were smashed by COVID. Some of them have opened again now, but that was a big setback for him. Then his fiancée at the same time left him, and his best friend went to live in Australia. So his 3 main things in life just disappeared. And he came home in tears. And then he started running as a way of bucking himself up. I mean, he went to see a psychologist, and he realized how many people were suffering a similar problem. And he said, I'm going to help this SADAG, Depression and Anxiety Group. And he's raised enough money already for them to have, I think, 4 mobile clinics.
That's incredible.
It's amazing. He's funding the whole thing himself. Any money raised goes straight to depression and anxiety. I'm so proud of it.
No, really, I follow him every day and see when the things comes up on, and I see how the people also support him. That's
a lot.
That's wonderful. But
so it's not only about the money. It's about making people aware of the cause he's running for. And he said you cannot believe how many people talk to him now about their depression, and he's discovered, I mean, this is not such a nice thing, about how many people, friends of people that he's talked about, have committed suicide in this time. He said it's unbelievable. And people talk to him now about this, which is a good thing.
Yeah, no, I think it's wonderful. And but is he also a musician, or did he also do music?
No. He did commerce. He's the best qualified of all of us. He did commerce.
Yeah.
And then he did, what did he do after that? He did a BA.
Yeah.
He did BCom first, and then a BA, and then he did honors in politics.
Oh, I see. Okay. And then he started a restaurant chain.
While he was he was in his second year at university when he got the first restaurant.
So he's a businessman.
He's an entrepreneur. Like I'm a musical one. He's like a businessman. Yeah.
But you know, like this, the way that he's doing this as well, you know, I know I'm 100%. You have to be so proud of him, because he is really, this is incredible what he's doing, you know,
And the other one I'm proud of is Siyabonga Makungo.
Oh, yes.
You've interviewed him, right?
Yes.
I saw it. He's like a child of ours too. In fact, he calls us mom and dad, because we've sort of adopted was about 16, not formally adopted, but
Yeah,
we've treated him like a child, and he calls us mom and dad. Yeah, and he's done so well.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
and such a nice guy, you know, really such a
wonderful.
positive
Yeah,
and loving person. Yeah, no, I know. I will write to him now and tell him that I've spoken to you. Yeah.
yeah, please do.
Uh, uh, you're doing amazing work, and that the fact that you're doing in education also and in schools, I think this is also, but this I find with many um, orchestras and musicians, you know, that they really think about the children as well, and young people coming up, and to inspire them, because I think it's that thing to be inspired for them, you know,
Yeah.
that is so important.
You know, because I can remember that moment when I was singing in a choir, that I got hooked. Actually, we were singing. The school where I was had a chapel, and I sang in the chapel choir. And I remember the moment I got hooked on music. It was a very inspirational thing. Well, I mean, we were singing a carol of some Christmas carol of some sort, and suddenly I realized how amazing this was.
And who was your teacher? Your first singing teacher?
Was a chap called Claude Brown, Dr. Claude Brown.
Really? Mm.
He
Well,
was the director of music school. Yeah.
at the school. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's the music teachers are so important. I always
Sure.
ask people to name their music teachers, because I think it's so important. Mm.
Absolutely. No,
Mm.
he inspired me, and his successor inspired me even further. Yeah.
Mm.
And very often those people, you know, you make a difference, or they make a difference in your life. And I know that I can make a difference in people's lives too, which I do.
Yeah.
That's my job.
Mm. No,
Yeah.
definitely. But ja, maar julle is julle Afrikaans?
Ja, ek is Engels sprekend, maar ek
Is
praat
eintlik
goed af.
Engels spreken. Maar je praat
Ja.
Afrikaans. Okay, yeah. But Richard, have a lovely day, and please let me know in the future if there's something that your choir or orchestras are doing, and we can talk about that, and you can, you know, we can talk about talk about that, so that I can post it and can be known about, because I think it's so important that we talk about things that's happening in South Africa. This is my really, I would love to shine some light on what you guys are doing there, because I think it's amazing. And yeah, so you're more than welcome anytime to let me know. We can discuss that. You can talk a little bit about the music you're playing, or so. Yeah. Mm.
Okay. All right. No, because there are, I mean, fortunately for me, this is one of the plus points about my being involved in music, is that it's, for me, it's always a positive experience. And I've had so many positive experiences from my music making. It's a healing thing. It touches people. It encourages people. And really, when I see young people getting involved in music, they're so enthusiastic, and it gives them an outlet they don't otherwise have. And for my choirs, absolutely a very emotional and yeah, it's a healing thing in their lives. Yeah.
Well, I saw, and I don't know if you saw my project, The Moments in Lockdown, where I photographed the 500 artists here in Vienna in their windows. And I've spoken to many of them. And what really struck me was this, you know, that they would talk about the problems, or they would talk about the dilemma, but then they can switch it so quickly around to then be positive, and then you see they do things that they have such a resilience and such a you know, just a way to deal with it. And I think it has to do a lot with how musicians train, how they go through life, how they have to overcome obstacles, how they have to motivate themselves, and
be
I
disciplined.
the discipline. And I've learned so much in this time, and this is why I continued then these interviews, and I'm also writing about this, because I think the world can learn so much from a musician. You know, we can, just by listening and seeing how you approach life and what you do is so inspiring, you know, that
Yeah, no, it is. And I mean, it's kept me going through. And in fact, my wife and I have found this quite a positive time. First of all, because I had to stop, because up to COVID, I was pretty busy.
Yeah.
But actually, I stopped for about a year. And it's been fantastic to reconnect with all sorts of things that I'd forgotten about.
Yeah.
And she and I have had a fantastic time during lockdown. So it's had positives. I mean, it had negatives too, but mostly for us, it's been a positive experience.
Yeah. This I also found in the interviews that I did over lockdown, was that everybody said this, you know, in the beginning, it was like, wait a minute, all the concerts were cancelled, but then they started rethinking and started thinking about what they were doing and thinking about the art. And because what some students also told me was that they were in such a rut to do competitions and and suddenly it came to a standstill, and then suddenly it was about the music. It wasn't about anything else anymore. And I think this is also going to, I don't know, I feel very positive, especially for the young students.
Well, I feel extremely positive about everything. Look, it's never been easy. It's never been easy. Making a living out of music in South Africa is tough. And so, but we're used to that. So now it's just a different type of tough, and it's fine. We can rise to that challenge, and we will do things.
Yeah. Well, you do amazing things anyway, so.
Thank you.
But Richard, have a wonderful day. And
thank you.
Is Louis sleeping now?
No, Louis. Yeah.
Where's Louis now? Oh, he found his seat.
He's fast asleep.
The famous cats of Zoom. So, okay, Richard, and have a lovely afternoon. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks
Thank you. Bye.